Welcome back to a brand new episode of Gen Z BTC. It's me, Satoshi Guapamoto, and this is episode 4 of Understanding Bitcoin. Today, we are going over the open source and community-driven nature of Bitcoin. So let's get right into it. First off, community-driven, all right? Bitcoin is driven by the community that uses it. It's not driven by a company or a corporation or some mega CEOs or some rich guys or some internet wizards in their mom's basements, all right? It's ran by everybody. Everybody has an equal say in terms of how the network operates. And if everyone cannot agree, or if everyone cannot reach consensus, then nothing will drastically change, all right? People have to be able to agree on how Bitcoin should work in order for Bitcoin to work. And currently Bitcoin works because everyone agrees that it is the hardest money in the universe, all right? So that's the community portion of it. Anyone can go ahead and try to participate in the network. So when it comes to Bitcoin, you're not a bystander, you're not a spectator, you are an active participant if you so choose, right? So being a participant means that not only do you get to buy Bitcoin and sell it and trade it and use it to buy other things, right? But you also get to be active in the community. Right? You get to suggest changes or Bitcoin improvement proposals, right? You get to put forth all of that information if you want to, and then the community can reach back out and say, you're a genius, or they can say, you're an idiot. And they can either take your idea and run with it, or they can stomp your idea into the ground because it's dumb and makes no sense, right? So that's part of the community aspect, but that's also the participant side of Bitcoin being open source. And what does being open source mean, right? Being open source means that it's something that anybody can look into, anybody can verify for themselves, and anybody can audit, right? So when people say things like, oh, well, Bitcoin's going to crash and it was created by the government and it's going to do this at this year and it's going to spiral, that's not true, because you can literally go look at the code and see exactly how it works. All right. And once you look into the code itself and see how it works, you realize, oh, this is just a monetary network that is verifiable by anybody. You don't have to trust any website or any person to say, oh, this is what the code actually says. Trust me, bro. You don't have to trust anybody. Bitcoin is a trustless system. What if you can't read code? You don't need to be able to read code in order to understand most of what's happening in the Bitcoin software. A lot of it's written in pretty plain English, but you could even use something like an AI tool to translate all the different lines of code and break it down for you. What if you don't trust the AI? Okay, well, I guess you're going to have to just learn how to code. All right, so it comes up to you how many levels or layers of trust you want to have, but there is no layers of trust needed in order to understand and to trust Bitcoin, to verify and to audit Bitcoin. And again, that leads into this point of it being something that you can audit, that anyone can audit. You as an individual can't just go in and try to audit your bank, all right? You're not going to audit JP Morgan, all right? And even if somehow you do an actual clean audit and you find a bunch of bad stuff, all of a sudden, magically, you're going to have 6, gunshot wounds to the back of your head. No one's going to know how that happened. Basically, you're going to get Epsteined, and all of a sudden, all the files are scrubbed and all the security cameras glitched. They glitched during the audit, so that's kind of weird. And also, there were a bunch of papers shredded the night before the audit. It's kind of weird. So it's hard to audit super mega ultra corporations. It's really hard to audit the US government, right? Like, you're not going to go audit the Pentagon, right? The Pentagon fails every single audit that they have. Wonder why that is. And no one ever gets in trouble. Wonder why that is. Kind of interesting. But Bitcoin is auditable, all right? And it can be audited by anyone for a very inexpensive cost. So that's very valuable, all right? It's going to cost a lot of money, manpower, and hours to audit something like a government or like a mega corporation. Whereas auditing Bitcoin is not only quick, but it's essentially free. Individual power, right? Being open source, being community driven, this gives power back to the individuals, okay? Bitcoin is a tool that allows the little guy to get ahead of Wall Street, to get over on all the mega billionaires and all the Wall Street giants who typically own everything and take control of everything, right? Bitcoin is power to the individual because we don't have to bend the knee to what a government wants to say or any improvement proposals that a government wants to put through. If the community does not agree with the improvement proposal, it will not go through. It is what it is. That's just how it goes. All right. And because Bitcoin is so decentralized, there's no way for any government to be like, oh, we're going to implement this change and the whole world has to follow it. No. Maybe all the brokies in your little country have to follow it, but everyone else in the world is going to leave you behind, and you can have your stupid little fake version of Bitcoin that no one else wants to play. Trying to change Bitcoin is a lot like going to a chess tournament and saying, oh, actually, the pawns can move like queens, and the queen has to move like a pawn. No one's going to play with you. They're all going to say, you're an idiot. That's not the rule set. Get out of here. You know, that's essentially what happens when you try changing the rules of Bitcoin and nobody agrees with you. So Bitcoin gives power back to the individuals. You do not have to bend the knee to more powerful people than you. All right. You have the power now. You have the keys now. You have the money now. You have the choice. You have the say. You are the decision maker. And that's why Bitcoin is so powerful. And then finally, Bitcoin is owned by no one. All right. Because Bitcoin's owned by everyone, it is owned by no one. Because everyone can audit it, everyone can run their version of the software, everybody can send in improvement proposals, everybody can be a part of this community. Nobody owns Bitcoin. There is no Bitcoin CEO. There is no Bitcoin owner. All right. And some people might say, well, there's so many governments that are coming in, so many companies that are coming in, there's so many different corporations that are coming. They're going to control it all and they're going to buy it all. To be honest, they are buying a lot. Yes. But buying Bitcoin doesn't mean that you're owning the network itself, right? So think of like Amazon or Apple or these big tech companies who came in during the boom of the internet, right? They didn't necessarily own the internet. They bended the knee to the internet because it was a technology that was so powerful that they needed to utilize it because they couldn't control it. And if they didn't use it, then they were going to go broke. They were never going to make it. All these ETFs popping up, all these different companies that are adopting Bitcoin as a treasury reserve asset, all these states and all these countries that are recognizing Bitcoin as a legitimate asset, they have to do this. Otherwise, they get left in the dust. They don't get to own the 21st century. They don't get to participate in the economic flourishing that is Bitcoin. They just get left behind and they look like morons. So at the end of the day, no one owns Bitcoin, but everyone will bend the knee to it. You have to if you want to survive. This is economic Darwinism, okay? If you're an idiot and you just think Bitcoin is just a toy or a scam or whatever, and you keep that mindset while the entire world around you is changing, you're going to be left behind the same way that people back in the day decided that the internet's just a fad, it's just a scam, it's just a joke, it's only for criminals, and then they never made a website for their stupid little business, and then they go out of business. Now they're mopping the floor of some mega company that does have a website, you know, some mega company that does let you buy online. You know, at the end of the day, that's what you have to do. You need to bend the knee or you will get ran over. You either get on the train or you get ran off the tracks. It is what it is. And that's essentially what we're seeing with Bitcoin, right? All these people coming into the space, if they're buying a bunch of coins, that should be signal to you that Bitcoin is legitimized and everybody needs it, from the rich to the poor. Bitcoin's the only thing in the world that solves the problem of both poor and rich people at the same time, because one is trying to manage wealth and one is trying to create wealth. Both can be done with Bitcoin. But sticking to the topic of open sourceness, long story short, it's not something that you have to trust. It's something that you can verify for yourself. It's not a bunch of shady coders or shady businessmen hiding behind the veil of transparency while actually doing a bunch of stuff in the dark and in secrecy. Bitcoin is actually transparent, and you can verify that for yourself as best that you can, right? If you can read the code, go ahead and do that. If you want to learn how to read code, then you can go ahead and do that too and then audit it for yourself. If you just want the AI to do the work for you, you can do that too. At the end of the day, you can check for yourself what Bitcoin is all about, and that's unlike any other system that we've ever seen before. And if you enjoy content like that, make sure you check out one of these two videos on the side right here to learn even more. And remember to share it with someone who might also find it interesting. I try to drop videos like this every single day, so be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video, my friends. Remember, stack sats or die trying.